able to rise, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and posting of colors.
Communist.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Superintendent Ms. Karen Cox, Chief Talent Officer Mr. Ron Wade, School Board Representative for District 7 Ms. Julia Bernat, Deputy Superintendent Mr. Patrick Burke, Principal Dr. Lisa Stubbe, North Springs faculty, staff, friends, and family, and last but not least, welcome class of 2013. Congratulations, guys. We started from the bottom, and now we're here. But how exactly did we get here? Just yesterday, we were wide-eyed freshmen, slapping people with our backpacks and clenching our agendas whenever we left the classroom. We survived our first research papers, breakups, and school performances. As a class, we've made ourselves legendary. We took North Springs above and beyond through our academic achievement, talents in the arts, and overall awesomeness. And let's be honest, no class can wander the halls as aimlessly as us. We're just that cool. From our overzealous spirit during homecoming to the frequent trips to CVS and hanging out at Steak and Shake. These were happy moments in our lives, but my how the time does fly. Today, the relationships we've made these past 4 years are vivid and fresh within our hearts and minds. But over time, they may become a blur. Life kind of happens like that. As Ferris Bueller once said, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. So as we prepare to close this chapter of our lives, cherish the time we've spent as a North Springs Spartan. And from now until your clock stops ticking, use it to the fullest. Become the CEOs, athletes, 2 Chainz, Steve Jobs, and Will Smiths of tomorrow. Grab life by the wheel, stomp on the gas, and never look back.
Seniors Adrian Estefan and Rebecca Galanti will now share inspiring thoughts. The Sunscreen song comes from an article written by Mary Schmitz for the Chicago Tribune in 1997.
If I could offer you, ladies and gentlemen, as a graduating class, if I could offer you only one tip for the future, sunscreen would be it.
The long-term benefits of sunscreen have been proved by scientists, whereas the rest of my advice has no basis more reliable than my own meandering experience. I will dispense this advice now.
Enjoy the power and beauty of your youth. Never mind. You will not recognize the power and beauty of your youth until they have faded.
But trust me, in 20 years, you'll look back at photos of yourself and recall in a way you can't grasp now how much possibility lay before you and how fabulous you really looked.
Remember, worrying is as effective as trying to solve an algebra equation by chewing bubblegum. The real troubles in your life are apt to be things that never cross your worried mind.
Do one thing every day that scares you.
Same.
Don't be reckless with other people's hearts. Don't put up with people who are reckless with yours.
Floss.
Don't waste your time on jealousy. Sometimes you're ahead, sometimes you're behind. The race is long, and in the end, it's only with yourself.
Remember the compliments you receive and forget the insults.
Don't feel guilty if you don't know what you want to do with your life. The most interesting people I know didn't know at age 22 what they wanted to do. Some of the most interesting 40-year-olds I know still don't. Whatever you do, don't congratulate yourself too much, or berate yourself either. Your choices are half chance. So are everyone else's.
Dance, even you have nowhere to do so but in your own living room.
Read the directions, even if you don't follow them.
Call your parents often, you don't know how much you'll miss them.
Be nice to your siblings. They are the best link to your past and the people most likely to stick with you in the future.
Understand that friends come and go, but for the precious few you hold on to. Work hard to bridge the gaps in geography and lifestyle, because the older you get, the more you'll need your old friends.
Travel.
Accept the certain inalienable truths. Prices will rise, politicians will philander, and you too will get old.
Respect your elders.
Don't expect anyone else to support you. Maybe you have a trust fund, maybe you have a wealthy spouse, but you never know when either one might run out.
Be careful whose advice you buy, but be patient with those who supply it. Advice is a form of nostalgia. Dispensing it is a way of fishing the past from the disposal, wiping it off, painting over the ugly parts, and recycling it for more than it's worth.
But trust me on the sunscreen.
Congrats, graduates, and great success.
The North Springs Charter High School senior chorus members will now perform an original work. Keeping with the program, I would like to invite Tori Rapinski to the podium for the senior reflection.
All our lives, we attempt to describe ourselves as something tangible. We list accomplishments on resumes and fill in boxes on our Facebook profiles, all in an effort to portray ourselves to others. But the truth of the matter is that we can't. One of the most frustrating aspects of senior year was applying to college, because I knew that a few pages could never capture who I am, or at least who I perceive myself to be. My admissions officers would never know that I'm quirky and bitingly sarcastic, or that I never wear shoes or sit in chairs. Eventually, I came to terms with the idea that colleges would not be accepting or denying me, but instead they'd be judging a superficial timeline of my life and reducing it to numbers like ACT scores, class rank, and GPA, which did make the rejections a little easier to deal with. However, neither I nor anyone else in this room can be broken down into numbers, judged, and ranked against one another. But sadly, that's what everyone wants to do. Just like each of us, North Springs is a living, breathing personality, and numbers cannot capture its essence. If we tried to describe North Springs in statistics, the ones that would probably come to my mind are how many times I walked into a bathroom stall where toilet paper was regrettably nowhere to be found, the countless schedule changes we had during EOCT week, the overwhelming percentage of seniors who joined me in contracting senioritis a few months too early, or the number of ways 8th period has been organized over the past 4 years. But these values are not what I'm going to think about in a couple months once we've graduated and left the school behind. I will remember how Miss Wheat always had chocolate and was more than willing to share. I will remember that there's no such thing as a lunch map, like in the movie Mean Girls, and that the teachers all actually care about us, which seems like a novel idea in some other places. I will remember the clusters of students dancing with the marching band at football games, and the unparalleled racial, ethnic, economic, social, political, and religious diversity that has taught me so much. Similarly, on a global scale, when you Google defining moments of the past 4 years, some of the statistics, images, and stories that pop up are staggering, and not in a fantastic way. But these accounts do not define us. Humans are characterized by the countless tears shed for these tragedies, the love poured into every package sent to the families of Sandy Hook, the one post on Reddit that sparked thousands of viewers to send letters to a terminally ill man with Down syndrome, the parents who tattooed insulin pumps on their stomachs so that their diabetic son wouldn't feel different, the story behind the movie Pay It Forward, and every other random act of kindness. Furthermore, if your faith in humanity is still not restored, just ponder the fact that throughout all of human history, there is no better time to be alive than this very moment. Our class is more than a statistic, more than the quantitative measure of success, more than the dollar amount of scholarships that we earned, no matter how impressive that number is. We are more than a numerical representation. We are the legacy that we leave behind. The only number that can really define us is our graduation year, because this is the number that marks a turning point in all of our lives. Over the next few months, we will all go our separate ways, but we will still be connected through this one piece of unifying knowledge, that today, in just a few short minutes, we are graduating. And I hope that I speak for all of us when I say that I could not be prouder to be a part of the North Springs Charter High School graduating class of 2013.
Head Counselor Mrs. Tessa Barbizon will now honor the scholarly work performed by the class of 2013 by recognizing scholarship recipients.
North Springs Charter High School boasts not only having some of the brightest minds in the state of Georgia, but also in the country. This year's senior class has earned over, and this number is just mind-blowing to me, $7,100,000 in scholarships and awards. That's not even including our over 135 Hope Scholarship recipients and over 25 Zell Miller Scholarship recipients who have a 3.8 unweighted GPA or higher. At this time, will all the scholarship recipients please stand and be recognized? If you're receiving a scholarship, please stand up so we can all recognize.
for much more than teaching constitutional amendments or world geography. North Springs fosters an interdisciplinary approach to learning, like Mr. Benshine's trip down to the dance studios with his AP World History class to learn ballet as we learned about Louis XIV, or Ms. Rosamond's psychological study of native son characters in our AP Lit class. Because we were encouraged to explore multiple passions, many of us found passions in apparently disparate fields. Even out of class, the teachers do not stop working. They are our coaches, our club sponsors, our directors, and maybe even our friends. After having Mr. Hetherington the first 3 years of high school as my math teacher, I spent almost all of senior year eating lunch in his room with my friends, even though I didn't actually have a class with him this year. Although no longer my teacher, he continues to teach me. My experience at North Springs is not at all unusual. We are all so lucky to be in a place where the students can ask teachers for advice and for encouragement.
A piece of advice that I often come back to is the one that my 9th grade physics teacher told us. A fish doesn't know it's in water until it leaves the water. Ironically, however, if the fish was to explore outside the world, it would be unable to breathe and die. This catch-22 of the fish's quest for deeper understanding is analogous to our situation. Without aid, we would be forever trapped in the fishbowl, not knowing what lies outside our view. But our teachers opened our eyes to what exists around their tiny microcosm, setting up the foundation one painful interval at a time, so that one day we too can explore the world around us freely. Leanie and I were tasked with recognizing our teachers, but there is one more person that the class of 2013 and the faculty would like to thank, and that is Dr. Lisa Stupy, our principal, who is leaving to spend more time with her family and support her daughter who graduated yesterday.
Dr. Stubbe has served as the principal of North Springs for 5 years. During her tenure, she has ushered in a culture of collaboration among the teachers, heightened access for all students to engage in rigorous curriculum, and significantly improved student achievement on state performance measures. There is so much more that we can say about her accomplishments at North Springs. But this day is about us, and her accomplishments in our Please join us in recognizing Principal Stubbe for her great work. For helping us grow and explore. Because of you, we feel ready to step independently into the real world outside of our fishbowl.
The next voice you'll hear is that of our principal, Dr. Lisa Stubbe. Please welcome her as she approaches the stage.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you, a heartfelt special thanks to all parents, family, friends, and community stakeholders convened here to celebrate the accomplishments of the class of 2013. I know you've already been acknowledged, but I would be remiss if I did not personally express my sincere gratitude and appreciation for my incredible administrators, teacher, and support staff. Thank you for a job well done. Keeping with our commencement schedule, I'll now recognize the Salutatorian. Each graduating class has students who achieve the highest level of academic performance to be selected as Valedictorian or Salutatorian. A senior must have been enrolled at North Springs Charter High School for 3 full consecutive semesters prior to graduation and have the highest cumulative numeric averages in their graduating class over the 4 years of high school. The Salutatorian for the class of 2013 is graduating with a cumulative numeric average of 101.623. I am pleased to introduce this year's Salutatorian, Mr. Michael Hunt.
Thank you, Dr. Stubbe. Faculty, friends, family, and fellow graduates, good afternoon. Looking back at 4 years of our lives, there's a lot to say. I can mention the school environment, the academics, the extracurriculars, or, for that matter, much more. While searching for something to say, I stumbled across a quote that inspired me from the Honorable Warren Hatch, Senator from Utah. There is a good reason they call these ceremonies commencement exercises. Graduation is not the end, it's the beginning. In light of this, perhaps the best thing to say is onwards. That is, we must recognize that today does not so much represent the end of an era for us, but instead the beginning of a new one. A particular poem that I find fitting for today is Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverged in yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler long I stood. I looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. I shall be telling this with a sigh, some are ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Today, we are the traveler. We have traversed through much these past 4 years, and we now have the privilege and face the challenge of being at a crossroads. We now have a multitude of possibilities in front of us. We could be doctors, lawyers, diplomats, scientists, actors, or anything else that quenches our passions. At this moment, our future is largely open to us, and we can achieve whatever we wish. To do so, we must make choices, which is where Robert Frost's insights come into play. Many of the paths we can choose from, to use Frost's phraseology, lead deep into the undergrowth, far beyond what we can observe. Yet, we must somehow choose. Given that many things in life are not up to us, the best option is to take the road less traveled by. From a personal example, on Information Day, the week before freshman year began, I was getting my books. As I walked up to the social studies table, the person who happened to be there was the human geography teacher. At the time, I wasn't registered for her class. The teacher took a look at my schedule and urged me to be in her class. And although it considers a considerably larger amount of work, I decided to take the road less traveled by, challenge myself, and take the class. And, as Robert Frost said, that has made all the difference. In that class, I met some of my strongest friends from high school who I might not have met otherwise, and I learned fascinating material that later influenced me to join Model UN, one of my most important after-school activities. In taking the path less traveled by, daring to be bold and take risks, we can aspire to push beyond our boundaries. In fact, only by taking risks can we grow as individuals. To paraphrase an oft-quoted statement, we miss 100% of the shots we do not take. And that makes all the difference. It is imperative to remember that today, more than anything else, marks the beginning of the rest of our lives. The hard work that has led us here today can lead us to great success in the future. Before I conclude, I would like to thank a few people. First of all, thank you to the faculty at North Springs for creating the learning environment that has allowed us to thrive. I would specifically like to thank those teachers who have significantly impacted our lives, whether through their exceptional teaching or through their profound commitment to the extracurricular activities we partake in. Finally, I would like to thank my family and friends for all their support over the years. They have made all the difference. North Springs Class of 2013, I urge you to take the path less traveled by. Congratulations on making it this far. Best of luck in the future.
Thank you, Michael. At this time, I would like to recognize the Class of 2013 Valedictorian. The Valedictorian for the Class of 2013 is graduating with a cumulative numeric average of 102.434. I am pleased to introduce this year's Valedictorian, Miss Emily Kelly.
If you were to take a peek into my room, you'd see walls that were covered with memories. Notes, pictures, trophies, and posters, each a tiny reminder of an experience, a person, or an event that for some reason I didn't want to forget. As a freshman, I remember putting up my first item, a colorful note from a friend, and looking at the empty blue expanse that stretched before me, imagining all the possibilities that could fill it in the future. Now, 4 years after I started my ragtag collection of wall art, I have finally run out of space. It took me a long time to start this speech. It wasn't until 2 weeks ago today that I was able to understand why I was having such paralyzing writer's block. I realized that if I started to write this final act of my high school career, I would have to acknowledge that it was over, that my walls were full for a reason, and that as soon as I finished reading this paper for the very last time, I would never again be a high schooler. But once I was able to acknowledge and move past the initial shock of this thought, I realized that we, as a class, are ready to move on, to take down the posters of the past and look towards the promise of an exciting future. But before we move towards the future, we must acknowledge and reflect on the past that has prepared us for what lies ahead. One of the best pieces of advice that I have ever received, and one of my favorite quotes on my wall, comes from a country song. It explains what I believe to be the most important things we should attempt to accomplish in life, and conveys many of the lessons that I learned here at North Springs. My favorite part of the chorus reads, "Be a best friend, tell the truth, and never use I love you. Each part of this lyric holds a special significance, which I would like to share with you now. Be a best friend. For many of us, myself included, the memories that stick out the most when we look back on these last 4 years revolve around the friends we've made. We remember getting ready for freshman homecoming with friends, giddy with excitement about our first high school dance, or painting our faces at football games, or meeting for a study session that turns into laughter and eating and doing anything and everything except for studying. The friends that I've made at North Springs have taught me the true meaning of friendship, shown me what it means to be a best friend forever and always, and have shaped me into the person that I am today. Tell the truth. Let's be honest. I think it's safe to say that the class of 2013 will rejoice in the fact that we will never again have to use the, in Mr. Day's famous words, Hep C passes. These color-coded sheets of laminated paper made many of us feel like we were in an unsanitary kindergarten and will most certainly not be missed as we move on to colleges and workplaces where we will be free to go to any bathroom we choose regardless of the color without having to ask permission. Every high school has its own drawbacks. If not doorless bathrooms, then forgotten hallways or unkempt sports fields. If not an imperfect pass system, then a hectic lunch schedule. Although I may make fun of these unfortunate aspects of North Springs, any critique I make of the school is truly out of love. What made our time in high school memorable was not the messes, but the amazing experiences that made waking up early every morning worth it. It was coming to school and getting to see teachers like Mr. H, who always has a joke or a funny story to put a smile on your face even on the worst days. Or visiting Mr. Smith, who was always willing to listen and help with history or with life. Or getting to have teachers like Ms. Curtis, who not only inspire students to be passionate about literature in the classroom, but also dedicates countless hours outside of school to student government to ensure that students get to experience events like homecoming and to allow students to have an active role and voice in their school. Teachers like these abound at North Springs, sacrificing their time and effort to help students excel and then giving students all the credit for their tireless work. The teachers at North Springs have truly inspired us not only to be better students, but also to be better people, and they are the reason that I am standing up here today. Overused, I love you. I truly love this unique high school. There's a sense of community when you walk through those big blue doors, a welcoming environment where everyone belongs. It's a rare place where interest groups aren't impenetrable bubbles, but are instead so intertwined that they are almost non-existent. Here, the biggest nerd is also the biggest jock. The drama star is also a science whiz, and it's not unusual to be involved in both the Fellowship of Christian Athletes and the Jewish Culture Club. I am constantly surprised by the absolute acceptance that this class has shown for each and every member. Over these past 4 years, we have become a sort of family. We've loved, laughed, cried, and learned together. We have supported each other and the communities around us through the good times and the bad, and we've tackled every problem with intelligence, compassion, and determination. When times got hard, this class was never phased, and instead of passively watching bad things happen, we came together and helped bring about a solution. We raised money for Japan after the tsunami, Haiti after the earthquake, and Sandy Hook after the tragic shootings. We volunteered at countless organizations, from the Ronald McDonald House to pet shelters and everything in between. We've also shared countless jokes, crazy stories, and emotional ups and downs that have connected us in a way we may never experience again. And I honestly could not have picked a better group of people to experience high school with. Before I relinquish my control of the podium, I'd like to thank all the people who have helped me achieve all that I have these past 17 years. To my teachers, thank you for your support and encouragement. You have taught me more than you'll ever know, and I'm so grateful for all the time you spent to encourage my success. To my friends, thank you for being there for me through everything. You always know just what to say when I'm freaking out or upset to make me feel better, and I couldn't have survived high school without you. You are some of the most amazing people I've ever met, and I love you dearly. I couldn't be more proud to be a member of the Dream Team or a part of Toll. To my family, thank you for being there and loving me despite all of my craziness. Thank you for letting me explore various interests and chase my dreams. I will never forget all that you've done for me, and no matter how many fights we get into or misunderstandings we have, I will always love you. So now, as our time as high schoolers is finally ending, we can look back with pride and look forward with hope. We have all filled up our figurative walls with memories and experiences that we don't want to forget, and it can be terrifying to think about losing the moments that have defined us for these past 4 years. But what I've come to realize is that the moments that have shaped us, the ones that we're most afraid of forgetting, are less like a poster that can be ripped, stained, or lost over time, but are more like footprints on our hearts. We may not always remember the details, but the lessons we've learned will remain with us forever and will change the way we encounter the world. So let's walk across that stage and get ready to fill our walls with new posters, pictures, and experiences that will change our lives and shape the course of history. Thank you, and congratulations, class of 2013.
School Board Member Mrs. Burnett, Deputy Superintendent Mr. Patrick Burke, Chief Talent Officer Mr. Wade, and Area Superintendent Ms. Cox, I hereby certify that the following members of the North Springs Charter High School Class of 2013 have satisfied all of the requirements established by the Fulton County Board of Education and are therefore entitled to receive their respective diplomas and certificates.
Dr. Stubbe, on behalf of the Fulton County Schools and Board of Education, I accept your certification and declare that these students from the class of 2013 of North Springs Charter High School have earned their respective high school diplomas and certificates with all of the rights and privileges appertaining thereto. The graduates will now come forward to receive their diplomas. Congratulations.
We ask you to withhold your applause and exercise proper decorum so all graduate names may be heard.
Joshua Frank Wade. Emma Grace Weinstein. Mia Rebecca Weinstein. Cheyenne Malika Wells.
Graduation participant has left the venue. I would like to introduce the Senior Class Vice President Julia Abelski to conduct the tassel ceremony.
North Springs Senior Class of 2013. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. We're about to end our high school careers and begin a new chapter in our lives. This next act is the very last thing that we will do as a class, and it signifies the completion of our senior year. Fellow seniors, on the count of 3, please move your tassels from left to right. 1, 2, 3.
We walk forward with a newfound understanding of calculus mathematics. We can explain principles of chemistry and physics to justify behavior in our universe. We've written countless essays evaluating works of the literary canon. We've studied art and its endless contribution to civilization. We've trained ceaselessly, become adept musicians, talented dancers, and skilled thespians. Despite our educational and social developments, despite our trophies, honors, ribbons, despite our recitals and performances, our galleries and portfolios, and despite our classes, essays, lectures, and projects, our biggest accomplishments have yet to come, as we move on to each make our own unique and significant impacts on the world. Ahead of us lie more education, more friendships, more honors, more successes, more failures, travel, career, marriage, children, mortgage, and the many other joys of adulthood. From this point, we launch into separate and unique paths, each one of us ambitious as ever, ready to go out into the world to dream and create and do and explore. As today marks the time to say goodbye to everything that has been familiar, everything that has been comfortable, we finally have reached a point to move forward. Diplomas under arm, our past behind us, and the broad unknown futures ahead. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we again ask that you remain in your seats and keep the exit portals clear until all members of the faculty and the class of 2013. Have left the facility. Thank you.
to introduce the senior class Vice President Julia Abelski to conduct the tassel ceremony.
North Springs senior class of 2013. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. We're about to end our high school careers and begin a new chapter in our lives. This next act is the very last thing that we will do as a class, and it signifies the completion of our senior year. Fellow seniors, on the count of 3, please move your tassels from left to right. 1, 2, 3.
We walk forward with a newfound understanding of calculus mathematics. We can explain principles of chemistry and physics to justify behavior in our universe. We've written countless essays evaluating works of the literary canon. We've studied art and its endless contribution to civilization. We've trained ceaselessly, become adept musicians, talented dancers, and skilled thespians. Despite our educational and social developments, despite our trophies, honors, ribbons, despite our recitals and performances, our galleries and portfolios, and despite our classes, essays, lectures, and projects, our biggest accomplishments have yet to come, as we move on to each make our own unique and significant impacts on the world. Ahead of us lie more education, more friendships, more honors, more successes, more failures, travel, career, marriage, children, mortgage, and the many other joys of adulthood. From this point, we launch into separate and unique paths, each one of us ambitious as ever, ready to go out into the world to dream and create and do and explore. As today marks the time to say goodbye to everything that has been familiar, everything that has been comfortable, we finally have reached a point to move forward. Diplomas under arm, our past behind us, and the broad unknown futures ahead. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we again ask that you remain in your seats and keep the exit portals clear until all members of the faculty and the class of 2013